Is one of the worst trades of all time. Bart, let's get to Pittsburgh, and we're talking about this weekend. Which quarterback gives them the better chance of making the playoffs?
Neither, but okay, well, if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with Justin Fields simply because he has a different element. When you can't play cover 5 or cover 1, for everybody knows that's man-to-man, and you turn your backs, he's able to at least bring an element that Russell no longer has in his repertoire anymore, and that's being able to run the ball and get yards late. Remember, this is a 1,000-yard rusher at quarterback right there.
But Justin Fields is the second best running quarterback in the NFL behind Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't even think that's an opinion. I think it's just an obvious statement of fact. That's one thing he does spectacularly well. We've seen him in one preseason game. We have not yet seen Russell Wilson, but according to Mike Tomlin, this weekend we will.
Russ is scheduled to participate if he has no setbacks, man. It's been a good week. He's been a full participant. He's had a couple really good days. With each passing day, it's less of an issue. And so we look forward to him participating in this home venue.
Do you expect him to participate with the first team offense or the second team?
He'll start.
He'll start. Russell Wilson will start.
Nobody uses words like Mike Tomlin, man.
Participate.
He'll start.
He'll start.
Yeah, okay, coach.
Well, but I mean, that's the right. Will he play with the first team? He'll start. So, Mike T, you've been in there. How are you reading the tea leaves of the way Mike Tomlin has handled this to this point, including the fact that Russell is going to be the starter tomorrow night?
I think it's going to be Russell Wilson's job if he plays average or better, because I think Justin Fields had those fumbles, which to me, I don't think it's totally fair, but I think Justin Fields had a chance to separate himself. He didn't take advantage of it. But look, Russell Wilson's turning 36, and when you're evaluating an aging quarterback, Greeny, it's from the waist down. It's short area quickness with your feet. Can you avoid the rush consistently? And as Graz mentioned earlier, Russell Wilson is a diminished skill player. Now look, can they squeeze a year out of him? I'm sure they're hoping so. But to me, if it's close as we get closer to the opening day, I would go with Justin Fields because he's 10 years younger. But reading the tea leaves, I get the sense that Mike T is leaning towards Russell Wilson.
I get that sense as well, Mike T. But I think the reason is like the Steelers are and Mike Tomlin are by nature conservative, right? And so they feel like they're looking at Russell Wilson as the do no harm candidate. Right. But I think that's to their detriment, because if you perceive Justin Fields as a quarterback whose game needs work, you need to perceive Russell Wilson in 2024 the same way, because what we've seen the last couple of years is not the vintage Russell Wilson. He needs help with his game as well if he's going to be the player they want him to be. So the way I look at it is like they want to run the ball. Like they want running to be their idea. Right. The offensive line is built for that. They have the backs. Like if you're going to be a running team, you have so many more options if Justin Fields is your quarterback. So I'm interested to see. You heard Tomlin say if he has no setbacks. The reason Fields has had this level of opportunity so far in camp is because of Russell Wilson's injury, suffered on the first day of camp. So if Wilson's healthy, I believe they're going with him. If he's not, the door is wide open for Justin Fields if he can just get the ball from the center.
And Arthur Smith has to have two separate offenses, right? One that's a heavy RPO game, and that really puts the offensive line in a bind, because you can't really get in a rhythm. You can't grow packages because, this is going to be something they're going to deal with. If Russ struggles, whether it's warranted or not, everybody's going to be calling for Justin Fields. And, I feel like they're going to go back and forth. I think, we're going to see games where Fields start as they're trying to get a spark. Within that division, they're going against legitimate MVP candidate quarterbacks, and they're going to have to try and keep pace. But trying to be conservative and winning ugly, taking the air out of the ball is Justin Fields, because the Steelers, DNA is running the football and playing great defense. This is a Super Bowl caliber defense. They've built this offensive line. They have good running backs. They have good receivers on the outside. Great two-way tight end. When you think about Fairmouth, his ability like the Heath Miller type. Yeah. And the only thing that's lacking is the quarterback. I've seen this movie before. I've lived it a couple of times.
Listen, I'm going to do a little bit of research into this here if I can. You just said you could see them going back and forth. Now you're starting one guy, then the next week you're starting the other. 3 weeks later you're starting the other guy. Yeah. I'm going to look into this here. What's the last time that worked in a big way in the NFL? Oh, never. That's never worked. No team has ever done that. You have to have a quarterback who you can play with and you can win with. And I think Mike Tomlin thinks that Russell Wilson is that guy. I don't know that because
I think you're right. I think that is what he thinks.
Here's the problem. Here's like sort of the nasty little secret. It's not nasty, but here's the thing that no one seems to talk about. We're talking about the negative plays, right? There's no more negative play than a sack, right?
Yes.
The only quarterback in the league who's been sacked more times the last 2 years than Justin Fields is Russell Wilson. All the things they're worried about with Justin Fields, Russell Wilson does too. He's been
Russell got
sacked more
benched.
times.
Russell got benched.
That's what I mean. So
Fields got traded. I mean, look, you're right. That's the problem, and it comes without the upside, right? So like you're going to run the ball, right? But sometimes you're going to drop back to pass, and once you drop back, what can you do? Like with Justin Fields, you have a much bigger menu of stuff than you do with Russell Wilson in those situations.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, agree. Going back to that graphic, that's why if we were running the Steelers, I would go with Justin Fields because he's 10 years younger and there's intriguing upside, as Graz just alluded to. Again, with Arthur Smith, he had great success with Ryan Tannehill, who physically is very similar to Fields. Move the pocket, heavy play action, play to his strengths. That will put pressure on a defense. You can win. It may not be ideal. There'll be some turnovers, but again, they're both free agents. And if we're thinking about the future, I'd rather take Justin Fields and his intriguing upside than Russell Wilson, who maybe you squeeze a year out of, but then you're right back to square one next year.
We have to remind our audience that this team had a winning record with Kenny Pickett.
Right.
Like, I don't think, it makes it real. I don't think it gets any worse than that behind center. But one thing that you can't have is turnovers, and those 38 fumbles is concerning. 2 fumbles in the first, and now he's fixing his feet. At least Russell, that maybe you can squeak some games out ugly. Nobody muddied the game up more than the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, and they probably feel with Russ, let's start out and see if we can just get through some games as we continue to develop Justin Fields behind, give him a tight package, a Nick Foles RPO type of package, and grow later. But starting off, we need to start off with Russ just because he's not going to hurt us with turnovers.
Let's see what they're able to be the biggest threat to Kansas City's hopes of a three-peat.
I got to say yes, because what are we talking about? We're talking about who can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. We know the Chiefs are going to the playoffs, and who has knocked them out of the playoffs since Mahomes has been the starter? Well, only 2 guys, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. So we've seen the Bengals do it. We know they're not scared. So I would say yes, assuming they're both in the playoffs. That makes the Bengals their biggest threat.
Bartholomew, let's go to one of your old teams, the Ravens. Will Derrick Henry be the missing piece for this offense?
Yes. You talk about, winning time, November, December. You got Derrick Henry at 250 with a 300-pound fullback. And then after all that, you have Lamar Jackson, that can run out the back door. I think he's the guy that's going to keep the Ravens on brand. They'll never have a playoff game against Kansas City where they rush the ball for 6 times ever again, not with King Henry in the back.
Yes, remind them you're allowed to run the football in playoff games. Hey, Mike T, are we ever going to see the elite version of Deshaun Watson again?
Certainly better if you're the Cleveland
He's
Browns.
so stunned by that. You notice the amount of time it took him to think about the answer to that question? What I love about you, Mike, is that you take the time to ponder your response. You almost seemed frozen in place. You were so focused on that. But now that I believe you've recovered, what's the answer?
I don't think so. Since the end of the 2020 season, he's played 12 games, and we're talking about a top 5 defense. They just added Jerry Jeudy with Amari Cooper, David Njoku. They play better without him. I mean, it's stunning. $64 million cap charge, and he has been average. So his career is getting late early.
Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục làm video tô màu để gửi tặng đến các bạn. Và sản phẩm mình muốn gửi đến các bạn là gì thì xin mời các bạn hãy đón xem video của mình. Và mình rất mong rằng các bạn khi xem video của mình thì hãy ủng hộ mình bằng những lượt like và lượt đăng ký kênh để mình tiếp tục với động lực ra video để ủng hộ các bạn, để cho các bạn cùng xem. Và mình mong rằng các bạn hãy cho mình tiếp thêm động lực cho mình. Mình cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều.
Bây giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục tô màu. Ui, bay.
Trên bảo cái gà sắp vứt rồi.
Đấy. Có anh Kiên bảo đi đâu?
Vô mang thấy bảo là sắp vứt rồi, sắp nghỉ rồi.
Chứ ai biết được cái kia đã bảo gì. Vậy tôi một